Hey everyone, this is Kim the Entrepreneur, and we're going to do a different video today. There's not going to be any logos, there's not going to be any banners, there's not going to be an end cap. So sorry to all those who are Patreon members. I will acknowledge you in the future videos. Now, I want to do a kind of a personal video, a little different from what I normally do, in the sense that I want to talk about the low wages that Uber and Lyft are paying drivers and the recent studies that have come out. Now, there has been a lot of reaction from these studies, some positive, some negative, mostly negative if we're being honest, where the studies showed that Uber drivers are making $3.37 an hour. Now, I personally questioned that. Another YouTuber I know outright called it BS, and then you had another YouTuber who, said, well, when you factor in the, taxes and stuff, it's a lot more. Either way, the numbers were not accurate. And MIT, who did the research paper that decided it was $3.37, did a new study, and while I don't know the exact number that they came up with, it was a little higher. However, it was still below minimum wage. And even with the new revised survey and study that showed that Uber and Lyft drivers were making a little bit more money, Lyft still called the numbers misrepresented. And of course they would, because why wouldn't they? You know what? Their business model is that they are deliberately taking advantage of the drivers. They always have. It's built into the business model. In fact, there's an article below that I might comment on in more detail later, but it says the same thing. Australia, by the way, has done their own study where the Uber drivers are making less than their minimum wage. Not by a whole lot, only by a couple dollars, but it's still less than minimum wage. Harry Campbell, whose own numbers were the source of some of the studies, admitted that it's really hard to figure out what exactly you're earning, and if the professionals have a hard time agreeing with what the numbers are, how are the drivers supposed to be able to figure out exactly what they're making, which I think is a valid point. And here's the point of this video. I do want to acknowledge up front that surveys and studies, they're not always as scientific as people say they are. They can be scrutinized, and they can do the best that they can to give us as good of a representation of what things are looking like, but it's ultimately a guess. You're never going to talk to every single person in the world. You're never going to get all that information to create a very conclusive, this is what people make. And for that matter, the gig economy, because it's not structured the way a typical job is, then yes, some people are going to make more money. If you just drive around waiting for a ping, you will probably make less money than the person who takes up a ride, drops them off, parks somewhere, reads a little bit, and so forth. Heck, I pretty much only drive surge and boost rides. So my numbers are going to be wildly different from someone who does not focus on those things. There is no way to have a scientific study on exactly what the drivers are making. But here's the thing. It is still saying something that in almost all these studies, whether you agree with the final number or not, all of them are below minimum wage, or they aren't taking into things like taxes and stuff. So the thing is, Uber is taking advantage of the drivers, and it's built into their system, and we've known about it for a while, and we continue to know about it. It will continue to be a problem until the almighty self-driving cars actually get on the road. And by the way, Uber even announced very shortly after these studies came out that they have fleet trucks on the road that have been taking tons of merchandise with autonomous trucks across the nation. Now, when pressured about how many items they've delivered, how many trips have the trucks taken, or how many trucks they even had, Uber was surprisingly mum on the answer. Probably because it's not nearly as big a deal, but they announced this at the time these studies started becoming more prevalent. Now that the media is scrutinizing and they're realizing what a raw deal the drivers are getting, Uber comes out, it's like, hey, these driverless trucks, they've been out there for a while now, and we've done so many of these deliveries. It's just around the corner, so stop complaining. Enjoy what we're paying you, because it's not going to last. You know what? Fine. If that's a game Uber wants to play, fine. Like right now I'm driving. I need the extra money. I'll admit it. Heck, I'm going to lose my health insurance in a couple days because that's just where I am right now. It happens. And when you get people in desperate situations, they will do things that they normally won't do. Just saying. So, but the thing is, this is not sustainable for anyone. This is not sustainable for anyone. For a little extra cash, Uber is good. And are these studies scientific? No, they're not scientific. They're a good guess. But it's interesting how even with the recrunched numbers, the good guess is still less than minimum wage. And it's deliberate to undercut the taxi industry. It's deliberate to undercut the bus industry. It's deliberate to get you to sell your cars. But as a friend told me one time, Uber needs to figure out how to be a business before they can be a monopoly. Because if Uber's whole future hinges on being the only ones out there and having no competition whatsoever so that they can charge whatever the heck they want, well, they can just ask Amazon and tell them and Amazon can tell them how difficult that actually is, because they are practically a monopoly and they still haven't cracked that nut. So, what is the point of this video? Truthfully, I'm not sure to a certain extent. I just want to say that the surveys are not as scientific as they make. And regardless how much you're making or how you're doing the system, and there is one statistic that does ring true. You do this longer, you tend to make more money because you figure out how to cheat the system. But the system need to be cheated for you to make more money? I don't know if I can answer that one for you guys. I really don't. And I would love to know what your thoughts are, which you can comment below. But needless to say, even though all of this is legal in a sense, it is morally questionable. And for that matter, long term, it is not sustainable. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So feel free to comment below on any thoughts you might have, and maybe I will delve into some of these articles with a little more detail, but I was just reading the articles and I'm just realizing I think Uber for the first time is finally going to be taken to task for what they pay to drivers. Do I expect our pay to change at all? No, because as the Joker once said, it's all part of the plan. Flame responsibly. Have a good one.